Let's take a look at some of the common error message that Excel may throw at you while you're creating your spreadsheets. The first one, div/0, is thrown up because you're trying to divide a number by 0. If I click on this cell, you'll see that the formula in there is A3 divided by B3. And if we take a look at A3, we have 6, and we're trying to divide it by the 0 in cell B3. And we all know that we can't divide numbers by 0. You'll also see this little exclamation mark pop up. And if we click the down button, that gives us the opportunity of ignoring the error or looking up help for this particular error message. So the div 0 will appear if you try and divide a number by 0. Let's have a look at the second one, value. This is a common error that pops up if you try and add a text value to a number. And again, if we look at the formula, A5 plus B5, and I can double click the formula to see what it's trying to calculate. And you'll notice that the text in the formula itself is colored. So the reference to A5 is blue, the reference to B4 is green, and it will highlight the corresponding cells in those colors. So there's A5, that's the blue one, and there's B5, the green one. So in this formula, what we're trying to do is take the number 2 and add a word test to that value. And of course, we can't do that. So Excel is saying to you, I don't understand the value you want to add. Let's move down and have a look at the next one. And we can see that in the formula here, we've got A7 plus VAT. And I'll just click away from that so we can see what's happening. This is A7. So it's taking the number 4 and trying to add 17.5%. But this cell is actually called D7. There's no reference to the term VAT. So Excel doesn't understand what VAT means or what you're referring to. We can correct this by actually giving this cell a name and calling it VAT. If we do that, then we can use names in our formula. But for now, this is just a pure numeric value, and Excel doesn't understand the term VAT. Let's move on to the next one, the ref. And we can see in the formula there, it says equals B9 multiplied by hash ref. And the hash ref refers to this cell here. This cell once contained a value that we could use in the multiplication, but that value has been removed or deleted and is no longer there. So the formula is looking or referring to a cell value that no longer exists. Let's come down and have a look at the next one here. This is a row of hash signs, and this is quite a common error message that pops up, and it's probably the easiest to fix. This error message will appear when there's not enough room in the cell to display the number. It's very important to display the whole number in an Excel spreadsheet so that you get the full picture. If we entered a number such as 1 million into a cell, but the cell itself was only wide enough to show 3 digits, if it displayed those digits, we would see 100. To us that's 100, and of course a long way off a million. So rather than showing you something that you might misinterpret as an incorrect value, Excel won't show you anything at all. The way that we cure this problem is simply to make the column wider. So we'll take our mouse up to the top between the C and the D, we'll grab and we'll drag along. And we might have to do this a couple of times until we get enough width to display the full value. Again, if we reduce the size of that one, the error message will come back. Sometimes our worksheet may contain errors, but there's no error message to highlight the fact. If we change to sheet 2 in our workbook, we can see here that we've got a formula that should be adding up the numbers directly above it. And we can see that wages and salaries in this list comes to £5,000, but our overall total is only 4,100, so we know there must be something wrong with this formula. And now that I've clicked on this cell, you can see the little exclamation mark appear. So let's click that and see what options it offers us. It's telling us that formula admits adjacent cells. In other words, it's not looking at all of the numbers above it. Let's double click on this cell and see what it is actually calculating. If I double click it, you'll see that there it is. It's not actually including all of the numbers in the list. So we can correct this by clicking on the down button here next to the exclamation mark and choosing Update Formula to include cells. If I click on that one, you'll see that the value updates, and let's go back and double click that, and now we can see that the correct range has been included in this formula. But why might this happen? Let's delete this formula and look at the list. We're compiling a list of expenses for a car hire firm. And let's imagine we're still waiting on a price for the cleaning. So I'm just going to take that value out for a second. We know that we want our spreadsheet to calculate a total, and we may place the cursor in there and use the auto sum feature. And if we click it and don't check what's actually being highlighted before we press the enter button, we will get a perfectly valid formula. There's no error message here, and that's because Excel looked above it when it was generating the formula and came to this blank cell and decided, okay, we're not going to include that in the formula, so therefore we just need to add these three numbers up. Of course, later on, when we get our price through from the cleaners and we type that one in, that will of course make no difference to the formula as it is, but now you'll see that the little green triangle in the top left hand corner of the cell has become visible. That indicates that there is something not quite right here. And a way to stop that happening in the first place is to not leave your cells blank. So if we're waiting for the price to come through for cleaning, let's just put 0 in there while we do wait. Now if we delete this formula and then regenerate it using the auto sum, you can see that Excel will also include this 0 value cell. So again, there's a big difference between a 0 value and a completely blank cell. So bear this in mind when you're creating your formulas, and hopefully you won't come across too many errors. So that's a brief overview of the common errors that you may encounter while using Excel.